first rule of branding here, keep your promises. That's a big one for small business owners out there. Why is it important to make promises and keep them as a brand?
Okay, so there's trust and there's attention. And a lot of business people who think they have a marketing problem think they have an attention problem. How do I interrupt more people? How do I call people at home? How do I buy an email list? How do I spam the world? How do I put up a billboard? All those things are all about attention. Here's the deal. There's 7 billion people on Earth. If you end up with 7,000 customers, which by my math is 1 out of every million people, you are doing great, right? Like I'm doing fine and I maybe have 100 paying customers a year. 7,000 would be a lot. So what we need to focus on instead of attention is trust. The people who know you exist, do they trust you? Do they trust you to keep your promise? Do they trust you to solve their problem? So if you wake up in the middle of the night and the sink is overflowing, you only get one call to one plumber. It's like getting arrested, right? You get one phone call. Who are you going to call? You're going to call the person with the biggest ad in the yellow pages, or you're going to call the people who have SEO, or you're going to call the plumber who every time you call them shows up and treats you fairly. Well, it's pretty obvious who you're going to call. So the hard work is to earn trust.
Yeah, and that's something that we've been doing for 30 years now with Dave. He's so big on being a trust brand and EntreLeadership being a trust brand. And so when Dave says, go reach out to this person, people actually do it. I mean, 3 hours a day, he's offering advice on the show and people take it. And that's because they trust him. And a lot of companies struggle with this. They don't have a Dave Ramsey talking to customers 3 hours a day. So how can companies make those promises and keep that trust and not break it?
Well, the first thing is they could have someone talking to customers 3 hours a day, except the customers don't want to hear from them. So that's the first problem. Make something customers want to hear about. Do something that is a service, not a hassle. You get to pick. You're the boss. And then the second thing is to be really specific about the promises. So let's say you make wedding cakes for a living. If your promise is, if you order a cake, we will make a cake, that's not much of a promise. That's not what the bride is thinking about when they are going out to spend $1,000 on a cake, right? What they are thinking about is, how will this make me feel? What they're thinking about is, how will this make my partner feel? How will this make my family feel? If you make a promise around those things and you keep that promise, then they're going to tell the others. And that is how things evolve, right? That's how you make magic going forward, is you have a very specific promise and you over-deliver on it, but it's not about the features, it's about the story.
And doing that consistently for a long period of time is how you win in business. That's fascinating. Exactly. Talk to the idea of word of mouth, because when I think of brand marketing, usually I didn't fall for an ad. I listened to a friend who said, hey, you got to check out this new canned water. It's fantastic. So what is the power of word of mouth, and how can business owners use that when it's not really quantifiable?
Well, business owners do all sorts of things that aren't quantifiable. They just pretend they don't. Who decided that the place of your retail location is the maximum return on investment? Who decided that of all the people you could hire, this person is quantifiably better than that person? Go down the list, right? So you're only quantifying the stuff that Facebook makes it easy for you to quantify. That's a trap. Don't fall into that trap. It's pretty easy to demonstrate that loyalty is the number one way to increase profitability, and word of mouth is the number 2 way. And way down the list is a clever advertisement. And the real challenge you've got is nobody wants to talk about canned water. I don't. Right? So no one's talking about you because you want them to. This whole idea of life insurance salespeople being trained to ask for referrals, no one's referring life insurance salespeople to anybody, ever. Because it lowers your status to say to your friend, my cousin sells insurance, will you meet with them? Of course you're not going to say that. But there's all sorts of things that could raise your status. So I don't know if you've ever reported on these tiger groups that started in New York and spread, where wealthy people get together and talk about their finances. And I don't know any of the details about it. All I know is it's been growing for years and years. Well, yeah, because what a great humble brag. Oh, yeah, I was in my elite group where rich people get together and talk about our finances, and we were talking about so-and-so. Well, yeah, because it makes you feel better to talk about it to other people. But the same thing's true when you give a merit badge to a Boy Scout. That is bragging rights, which then the kid can talk about to the others. I'll give you one more example, which is years and years ago, I hang out a lot with people of totally different ages than me. That's how you learn things. A bunch of kids were into skateboarding. And one kid said, 12-year-old old, one kid says, I'm sponsored. And it turns out this skateboard company that made skatewear and jackets and shirts and stuff made a deal to 12-year-olds. They said, send us a video of you skateboarding. If you're good enough, we'll sponsor you. And if you're sponsored, you get anything we make for 50% off. But you have to promise in writing with your parents agreeing that you won't wear anybody else's brand. And these 12-year-olds are like so proud of themselves. Well, 50% off, the company's still making a profit, right? But what they were actually doing was activating 12-year-olds by giving them bragging rights, which gave them something to talk about.